Okay. Great, so let's start. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Steuben County. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Steuben County Drainage Board meeting, June 16th, 2025. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Second item is the Serenova Commerce Park Section 1, Kenwood Wilson requests written letter of approval to discharge into the 510 John Croxton regulated drain.
So it's a technicality from the city. They
It
just
was,
want it to be formal, so they just kind of said it, just kind of want a formal letter from you guys.
Okay.
It's to, prepared. It's just a drink.
Everyone?
Do we need, Greg, did she say specific?
I thought even meeting minutes.
You know, do a copy of the minutes, so I can prepare a letter. I've done most.
Whatever works for that.
It'd probably be the easiest for you guys.
Okay.
The minutes just have to wait till I'm finished with them.
And be approved, correct? So we'll have to wait until the next one.
We can just do letter. If you would just want to make a motion to send a letter to the city of Angola,
Kelly, see it.
that you're allowing them to discharge Serenova's water into the John Croxton regulated drain.
At the rate that we discussed at the last meeting.
At least we-
At the engineer's rate.
Yes.
Any motion?
Yeah.
First and second, right? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
So Rick, that you need the motion?
Yeah.
Well. All right, well, our number third item is maintenance hearing. So we're gonna suspend our meeting. Or we gotta wait till 2:05. Start the hearing. So we'll sit here in awkward silence for a couple minutes. Huh? That's just the minutes, yeah.
You said silence. Awkward silence.
Yeah, and I can't talk to
Oh,
Chad.
keep it
or anything, so.
Okay, I use them again.
Ourselves, we could do it, we can say it again. Yep.
All right. We will start our public hearing for the George Parcel Regulated Drain number 550, file number 2504. June 16, 2025. Purpose of the hearing is to increase rate of assessment for maintenance. We call this hearing to order to begin the proceedings. This hearing is for the purpose of receiving evidence for the number 550 George Parcel Drain matters. Notices have been filed with the board for first class mail to landowners May 8th, 2025, and B, public newspaper notice appeared on June 6th, 2025. Each person in attendance is requested to write his or her name, address, and name of any group or firm represented on the sign-up sheet. Is everybody signed in? The surveyor will report on any petitions of record and dates of filings and persons who signed the filing. We don't dare. The procedure for conducting the hearing is as follows. Surveyor's report. Petitions first, objections second, questions and answers follow. Let the record show that each board member has been provided with a file containing copies of all documentation relevant to these proceedings, including the proposed schedule of assessments and surveyor's report. The surveyor is requested to make his report on the maintenance, including the A, history, B, recommendations, and C, explanations of the watershed. Surveyor will now read his report.
Okay, as directed by the Steuben County Drainage Board, the Steuben County Surveyor's Office has prepared a watershed assessment map, assessment roll, and a list of affected landowners. The Surveyor's Office has also notified all the landowners in the number 550 George Parcel Drainage Basin involved in these proceedings and does hereby submit a formal maintenance report for your review, approval, and adoption. The George Parcel Regulated Drain is located in the Pigeon Creek Basin, drainage basin, sections 35 and 36 of Jackson's Township, T37 North, R12 East, Steuben County, Indiana. Number 550 George Parcel Regulated Drain was originally established in 1903 as part of the Pigeon Creek Drainage Basin. The George Parcel Regulated Drain is currently comprised of 476.04 benefited acres with a quarter mile of tile in an agricultural and residential drainage network. The last time the rate was increased was 2010.
It's actually 1.4 miles. Tile.
Thank you for that. 1.4 miles of tile. It is recommended that the Steuben County, it is noted by the Steuben County Surveyor's Office that the current rate of $6 per acre with a $12 minimum roadway times 2 is no longer sufficient to properly maintain the number 550 George Parcel Regulated Drain with an annual income of $2,918.85. The George Parcel maintenance unit is currently $29,966.72 in debt. Therefore, it is recommended by the Steuben County Surveyor's Office that a new rate of the number 550 George Parcel maintenance unit be increased to $12 an acre with a $24 minimum, roadway times 2. This will collect an annual income of $5,827.44 to maintain the number 550 George Parcel Regulated Drain. It is also recommended by the Steuben County Surveyor's Office that the George Parcel roadway times 2 watershed no longer contributes to the number 551 George Shrimpland maintenance unit, but rather be directly assessed the 13 cents per acre with the $6.25 minimum. Currently, it makes this annual assessment by contribution.
Thank you. Does any board member or any other person have questions to the surveyor about the technical aspects of the surveyor's report? No, I'm gonna ask the surveyor some questions. Are all lands within the watershed assessed?
Yes.
Are all benefits assessed, not excessive?
Correct.
Are the costs, damages, and expenses less than the benefits accruing to owners of land benefited?
Yes.
Surveyor will report to the board any person who filed a timely written objection of record, and the board shall consider each one separately and make a decision on the objection. If the person who filed an objection is present today and would like to speak, please do so after your letter is read.
There are no letters of objection received.
If there are no timely letters of objection received. Are there any persons in favor of the maintenance increase who want to speak? Attorneys at law first, if any present. Are there any persons against the maintenance increase who want to speak? Attorneys at law first, if any present. Are there any additional questions or comments from any person present? The board now begins decision-making process. Should the proposed schedule of maintenance assessments be changed in any way? Should the surveyor's report be approved as finally presented? Does any member desire any further evidence in order to make a decision? Should the hearing be adjourned and reconvened at today? Sir. A review of the proposed findings of fact.
Maybe attorney reads the findings.
Yeah.
Read them.
The audience doesn't have a copy.
Okay.
Allowed though.
These are the proposed findings, which are not final until adopted by the board. Number one, the public hearing is being recorded by digital recorder. 2, no petitions were filed, and the board requested that the surveyor's maps, drawings, and documents for this drain be admitted into evidence. Maintenance increase initiated by surveyor's office. 3, the drain has been classified and previously placed on the priority list of the long-range plan of the board. Period. 4, there are no damages to any landowner. 5, all of the benefit factors of section 112 of the Indiana County Drainage Board Code has been considered by the board. 6, all landowners sent notices of a proposed assessment at lands within the watershed. 7, notices by mail and by newspaper have been properly and timely made as required by the Indiana County Drainage Board Code for public hearings. 8, all lands included in the watershed are assessed. 9, no lands outside the watershed are assessed. 10, none of the benefits assessed against any landowner are excessively applied. 11, no further evidence is required for the board to make a decision. 12, all persons desiring to speak in person or by counsel have been permitted a reasonable opportunity to present their evidence orally or in writing. Period. 13, all timely objections, if any, have been heard, discussed, replied to by the surveyor, and ruled on by the board. 14, no person has objected to the procedure of the board during the public hearing. 15, the board has jurisdiction of the drain under the Indiana County Drainage Board Code. 16, the drain is in need of periodic maintenance. 17, this drain can be made to A, perform the functions for which it was designed and constructed, and properly drain all affected land under current conditions by periodically cleaning, spraying, removing obstructions, and making minor repairs to it. 18, the work proposed by the surveyor to be performed on this drain does not provide for any reconstruction as provided in the drainage code. 19, the board is unaware of any pollution in the drain. 20, there has been no evidence to vacate the drain or that the drain has been abandoned by the board. 21, all relevant documentation in the files of the surveyor and the board regarding the drain are received into evidence by the board. 22, any assessment against a state or county highway should be and is 2 times the base rate per acre. 23, the schedule of assessments as originally filed is adopted by the board. 20, and it wasn't amended, so we wouldn't include that.
Or no, except as amended.
This watershed will no longer annually contribute funds to the number 551 George Shrimplin Maintenance Unit and will be directly assessed in the number 551 George Shrimplin Watershed. 25, the secretary of the board shall publish a notice of the board's final order as required by the Indiana County Drainage Board Code. 26, the final order form of the board is approved for this drain and is adopted to the extent it can be made consistent with these findings and final order of the board. Is that it?
Thank you, John. Chair asks for a motion to approve the findings of fact. Second. First and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The chair asks for a motion to adopt petition for maintenance. Seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I move for the board to adopt the surveyor's report and schedule of assessments and to declare that the schedule of maintenance assessments as approved in order. I now announce that the board has approved these findings and the board is instructing the secretary of the board to publish notice of the findings in order. This hearing is now adjourned.
We have the final order prepared for this one, so
All
there are
right.
no objections, so I just need to sign.
Fortunately, we have to wait till 2:25 to start our next hearing.
20.
2:25 on the,
Yes.
I think,
on the agenda.
oh, yeah, I think it was, because we usually do it 2:30, so I thought, oh, we only have a few minutes to spare.
You think, Karen?
Good. Yourself.
Goodbye.
Figure. You just hit the mute button on like the screen. Down at the bottom. Ready?
Are you see?
All right. Welcome everyone for the Drainage Board for public hearing on maintenance petitions. The Paul Michael Regulated Drain number 573, file number 2505. It's June 16th, 2025. Purpose of this hearing is to increase the rate of assessments for maintenance. Call this hearing in order to begin the proceedings. This hearing is for the purpose of receiving evidence for the number 573 Paul Michael drain matters. Notices have been filed with the board for A, first class mail to landowners, May 8th, 2025, and B, public newspaper notice appeared on June 6th, 2025. Each person in attendance is requested to write his or her name, address, and name of any group or firm represented on the sign-up sheet. The surveyor will report on any petitions of record and dates of filings and persons who signed the filings. No petitions. The procedure for conducting the hearing is as follows. A, surveyor's report. B, petitions first. C, objections second. D, questions and answers. Let the record show that each board member has been provided with a file containing copies of all documentations relevant to these proceedings, including the proposed schedule of assessments and surveyor's reports. Surveyor is requested to make his report and a maintenance including the A, history, B, recommendation, and C, explanations of watershed. Surveyor will now read his report.
As directed by the Steuben County Drainage Board, the Steuben County Surveyor's Office has prepared a watershed map, assessment roll, and a list of affected landowners. The Surveyor's Office has also notified all the landowners in the number 573 Paul Michael Drainage Basin involved in these proceedings and is hereby submit a formal maintenance report for your review, approval, and adoption. The number 573 Paul Michael Regulated Drain is located in the Pigeon Creek Drainage Basin, sections 34 and 35, Fremont Township, Steuben County, Indiana. The number 573 Paul Michael Regulated Drain was originally established in 1958 as a part of the Pigeon Creek Drainage Basin. The 573 Paul Michael Regulated Drain is currently comprised of 417.94 acres, benefited acres, with 2,967 linear feet of tile and 3,470 linear foot of open drain in an agricultural and residential drainage network. The last time the rate was raised was in 1977. It is noted by the Steuben County Surveyor's Office that the current rate of $2 per acre with a $5 minimum is no longer sufficient to properly maintain the number 573 Paul Michael Regulated Drain with an annual income of $838.88. The number 573 Paul Michael maintenance unit is currently $8,492.33 in debt. Therefore, it is recommended by the Steuben County Surveyor's Office that the new rate of the number 573 Paul Michael maintenance unit be increased to $10 an acre with a $25 minimum. This will collect an annual income of $4,194.40 to maintain the number 573 Paul Michael Regulated Drain. It is also recommended by the Steuben County Surveyor's Office that the number 573 Paul Michael watershed no longer contributes to the number 551 George Shrimplin Maintenance Unit, but rather be directly assessed at 13 cents per acre with a $6.25 minimum. Currently, it makes this annual assessment by contribution.
any board member or any other person have questions to the surveyor about the technical aspects of the surveyor's report?
One, on their calculations for the proposed rate. Just historically, looking at the one we just completed, it takes about 6 years to recoup what that particular drainage unit is in debt.
Mhm.
This one does it in 2 years.
Mhm.
We have anticipated work in that particular area and we're required to be recouped that much.
There is some on the neighboring property, doesn't show, but I believe, the Mr. Hamilton, which would be, is that where your cursor's at? The open ditch was dipped, but there's a lot of private drain tile that does need to, the Hamilton, land holdings. We do some working through there. I've been trying to
Say
band-aid.
private tile.
I'm sorry, not private, it is regulated. You can see that there's a big wet hole in here, that we've been trying to, I believe Larry, the surveyor before me, tried to do something in through here. They hit sugar sand, so this is steeper, and it's not just your average clay. It's the nasty sugar water sand that it's just gonna take quite a bit more of equipment, labor. That's the main, and answer your question if I will.
Yeah.
Anybody? Technicalities of the report? All right, I'm going to ask the surveyor for his opinion on the following questions. Are all lands within the watershed assessed?
Yes,
Are all benefits assessed and not excessive?
yes,
Are the costs, damages, and expenses less than the benefits accruing to owners of the land benefit?
yes,
Surveyor will report to the board any persons who filed a timely written objection of record, and the board shall consider each one separately and make a decision on the objection. If the person who filed an objection is present today and would like to speak, please do so after your letter is read.
One timely letter of objection received on June 6th, 2025 from John Holler. He owns parcel number 7602-34-000-002-000-022. And he has written, I object to the proposed annual maintenance cost of $1,580 for the 573 Paul Michael regulated drain in Pigeon Creek, Fremont Township, Steuben County, Indiana. This is an increase of exactly 5 times the previous cost of $316. This is his personal assessment he's talking about. This is an unreasonable and unsustainable increase that cannot be supported. Number one, I have owned this farm for 33 years, and to the best of my knowledge, the ditch has been cleaned once and the tile has not received any upkeep or maintenance. Number two, the income from the ditch maintenance since 1977 amounts to 48 years times 838 and 88 cents a year to equal $40,266. Number three, there are inconsistencies and seemingly math errors in the information I have been provided concerning the proposed increase in ditch maintenance costs. In the notice of public hearing, the percent of total is 0.049% for John Holler. And the Steuben County Surveyor's report, the percentage total is given as 4.873%. I cannot come up with either of these numbers as given. It also appears that the total percentage total doesn't add up to 100%. The inconsistencies and seeming math errors cast doubts on the basis and logic of this 5 times increase in maintenance costs. That was number 4. Number 5, independent of this increase in maintenance costs, I had an estimate done for tiling the farm in February of 2025. The county drain, which is 100% on my farm, was not utilized in the proposed tile pattern I had done for my farm, since in the opinion of the tile installer, it was not a benefit to use the existing drain, and a parallel tile would be installed to replace existing county tile. Thus, the county tile provides no utility to me, so I choose not to pay for maintenance for something that has no benefit to me nor to anyone else. Number 6, there's a statement in file 2505 that the Paul Michael maintenance unit is currently $8,492.33 in debt, which is used for justification of this 5 times increase. I am requesting that I be provided with supporting documents for this debt number at least 10 days before the final decision is made. And number 7, the beneficial acres are proposed to be 158 acres. I submit that the beneficial acres is in fact 87 acres based on aerial photos and the actual lay of the land benefiting from the drainage ditch. Submitted by John Hopper. And then he had an attachment of his tile pattern, his proposed tile pattern.
Ready to read your response?
So response, yes, so, the response letter is, John, your letter of objection to the number 573 Paul Michael regulated drain maintenance increase was received and filed in the Steuben County Surveyor's Office on June 6, 2025. Your letter of objection will be read into the minutes and ruled on by the Steuben County Drainage Board on June 16, 2025 at 2:20 p.m. In the Commissioner's Room, Steuben County Community Center, Angle, Indiana. While the dollar amount listed in your annual contribution of $1,580 was correct in the notice of public hearing, your annual contribution is actually 37.669% of the total annual income for the maintenance unit of the number 573 Paul Michael regulated drain. An updated notice of public hearing and schedule of assessment is enclosed with this response letter. Should you have any further questions, please contact me at 260-668-1000 extension 1800. You can also email me at surveyor@co.steuben.in.us, respectfully, Jim Slagle.
Is John present today?
I am.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Please.
Can you come up to the podium?
Okay. Additional information there. Have it covered.
We can share it. Thank you, sir.
Make sure I have a copy of it. That looks like it's in here.
I'm John Holler, and I own a farm out on Peachy Road. I guess it shows a proposed tile map there. I got this notice saying my drainage assessment went from $300 a year to $1,580 a year, which amounts to like 68% of my property taxes. So that's a pretty big hit. And as far as I could see, there was no real explanation as to why or how the money would be used, other than that the drainage area was in debt. That I understand. We're all going to have to figure out how to handle that. But that's an awful big hit all at one time, just out of the blue. And what I'd like to do is make a couple points. What I have here is a copy of the Indiana law pertaining to organization, operation, county drainage boards in Indiana. Farm Bureau General Counsel provided me this. And there's a paragraph in here that talks about proposed increases. And I'd like to read that paragraph because from my perspective, what's in the law was not met when it's proposed. It's 36-9-27-38. I'm going to read some of it. I'm going to read the whole thing. It's not that long. Okay, when the board refers a regulated drain classified in need of periodic maintenance to the county surveyor, the county surveyor shall prepare a maintenance report that includes the following items. One, the estimated annual cost of periodically maintaining the drain. Two, the name and address of each owner of the land that will be affected by proposed maintenance, and the legal description of the land of each owner as shown by the duplicate of a record of transfers of the county in which the land is located. However, a public way owned by county or state shall be described by its name and or number. The right of way of railroad may be described as in the right of way of the owner through section, township, range, and range. If the name of an owner is not known and cannot be discovered through diligent inquiry, the report may describe the land as belonging to the person who appears to be the owner according to the last tax duplicate or record of transfer of the county where the land is located. The last item is one that I think I do not see in this report or I've seen this. And it's important to me when I put together a request for money, I'm going to tell the people how the money is going to be used. That's just common business, common government practice, common everything that's in this law. Item 3, I'm reading now. The nature of the maintenance work required and how frequently the work should be performed. That is in the law, and I don't see that anywhere. And to me, that's very important that you tell people what you're going to do with this money. The other point that I want to expand on, it's in that letter that I submitted originally, is that since 77, there's been $40,000, some dollars collected in drainage maintenance fees. If you include the $8,000 that was spent 3 years ago to dip the drain, that's $48,000 over 48 years. If you spent about $1,000 a year to maintain that drain, I know there's inflation and there's costs are gone up, but a 5-time increase is not a reasonable proposal in my mind. I just really want to emphasize those points. Number one, as I read this law, and I'm not a lawyer, and I knew absolutely nothing about this until I got this letter. You have to tell people where the money's going to be used, how it's going to be used. I'm going to read it again. It says the nature of the maintenance work required and how frequently the work should be performed. I can provide anybody that's interested in this email. It's like 70 some pages, but the law, I can provide a copy of it. And I assume Farm Bureau is a good source for this information. The guy is the general counsel, so I think he knows what he's talking about. I guess I'd entertain any questions if you want to ask anything, but I have trouble with 5-time increase, not knowing where it's going to be spent.
So you are adding tile or put a new tile on your field, correct? Is that what this is?
Yeah, we have an agreement to do that, yes. It's not been done.
It will be.
This fall, hopefully.
And do you know what the increase of water that will capture and put into the county?
I honestly doubt if it increases at all because it eventually all goes in the ditch anyway.
County drain, yeah.
Hopefully it'll drain faster and,
Yeah.
there won't be ponds and stuff.
I don't know, this is probably our, 6th or 7th, at least hearing of doing, maybe anything more than that, yeah. In the last couple of years, and they are not easy to do, especially when you have one that hasn't been increased since 1977.
I understand it.
I think some of the things that don't necessarily get conveyed is that so there's basically a circuit breaker on we have 4 years of maintenance fees in that line item, then that assessment will be reduced or go away if you have
We
that.
have a surplus of,
Yeah.
of 4 years of income.
So,
Yeah, it's been a lot easier for me just to have a ditch dug out and facing what appears to be, at least on the surface, a continuous tax forever.
that's what I'm saying. It's not a continuous tax though.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right. So it does, once that surplus hits that circuit breaker, then
What is the surplus?
it's 4 years.
4 years worth
4
of
years of
surplus income. Once it has that much
So you-
accumulated, then we can't collect on it that year until it needs more additional work.
So when it reaches $16,000, is that what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever that number
There's
is.
collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a surplus of that, then we don't collect it that following year.
Yeah. Something just doesn't add up though in that you've only spent $48,000, assuming no money is transferred in and out of this
Yeah.
account.
It has to go right into that same.
Well, I think in the law you can.
No. The only thing that we can do on this one was we're gonna discontinue the annual contributions into George Shrimplin because this is a subunit of George Shrimplin, which is basically Pitchy Creek that covers most of the county. So there's many, many little tiny maintenance units that instead of being automatically assessed in George Shrimplin, they just so much money per year was taken out of this account and put into George Shrimplin, since it helps, because that's where all the water ends up anyways. So what we're proposing also in the hearing is that they're no longer gonna contribute to it, so they're not gonna take money. You know, I think $50.39 came out every year to be transferred over to George Shrimplin. So we're not gonna do that anymore, but you're gonna be assessed in George Shrimplin directly. Because all your water ends up going into that anyways, eventually.
It's very confusing
It's-
because the benefited acres was 158. So that leaves 6 acres on that farm that I pay like $28 an acre to other use. So it's like $300. So I don't understand that whole system.
Yeah. It's,
Honestly, don't. But I do pay $28 on the other 6 acres.
But yeah, probably where you're located, you probably are in a few different units.
Yeah, there's
Like,
4.
Yeah, maybe Kinsey, or maybe Shrimplin, the Shrimplin one, maybe. So yeah, out of the 165, they calculated that 158 of that acres goes directly into that Paul Michael tile.
Right, and that's
And then it
probably,
goes to George.
I would say it's more than, or less than that, but, you know, I don't know.
Of the 165?
Well, no, it's 164 acres in the farm.
Oh, this one says 165 on our tax records.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So that leaves about 6 acres, which is like $300 that they paid to other. You know, when you're talking a few $100s, it doesn't catch your attention. When you're talking $1,800,
yeah,
it catches my attention.
totally understandable. Maybe we've had this discussion too, but we also never had anybody come in and said, well, you guys haven't raised it since 1977. We're at, you know, I think that's a hard thing to do, but you know, with we can't run it in debt.
Where did, it doesn't say that in Indiana law. Where does
Well, we
it?
can only run it for so much.
State Board of Accounts Indiana State Board of Accounts has a level where if you go 8 years or more, you are required to have a hearing to raise the rates. Otherwise, we can get fined. So usually, I mean, you can only accrue a surplus of 4 years. So, you know, but we can go 8 years in debt, but when we're only collecting $838 a year, that's gonna take forever to get that out of debt when you're $8,500 in debt. So it kind of sets a mechanism in there where you have to abide by, that was 10.12 years in debt.
I don't know, the $4,000 a year sounds high to me, just based on history.
And it could be that, you know, that 4 years is gonna collect a surplus in no time, and then we don't assess it anymore. And it sits there for maybe, you might go 10 years, you know, without having to pay an assessment on it.
The other comment I'd make, on one of the maps I had, the only tile was on my farm. Is that not true?
No, it goes on.
Oh, no, it keeps on.
That must have had an incorrect map.
It's kind of hard to tell with those ridge lines. All the same color.
Also, too, I have a question too. So if your contractor wants to tile too, how far does tile need to stay away from the right of way of the original tile?
Connect to it. They could probably connect to it.
Connect to it, but the answer is it depends, but generally it can go to the drain. It has to get to the
But
drain.
now, did we do a pass? Did we change
We
any?
did pass an ordinance where there's now gonna be a connection fee. I'm not sure if that was, what, $25 or something like that, but also the board has the right to waive any kind of the fees that they deem necessary, so.
John, you can have this map if you want. The purple line shows the watershed. No, it's cut off. You can have that if you want.
Okay.
And that shows, Greg, can you put up in the big screen the whole entire, the Paul Michael unit? So it's kind of hard to read, John.
Original, there's too much purple on that.
There is too much purple.
There's this one.
Yeah.
Listen, but that one only shows one tile. I think that's where I got that idea, that whole tile is on my farm.
No, it's down here too, but I highlight it out of the kindness of my heart to explain to people, like on the ridge line. And yeah, I just missed that little shade of blue right there. There's tile right there.
There is tile in there. Yeah, correct.
Okay, that's where I got that idea.
But the dashed line represents tile.
Well, I just want to make sure that you have a better understanding of how it works, I think.
Well, I still think you guys need to figure out what you're gonna do with the money before you start asking people for money. That's in the law. It is.
Did you ever get a copy of the legend?
I did, but that doesn't really help.
Well,
Yeah.
this side is the bad side, do that. This is the positive side. You can see where there's contributing things that we have everything in there. And there was a lot of work done in 2024 where
Yeah.
we really took it down.
All right. You know, we cleaned out the old ditch.
Well, let's continue with our, all right. Are there any persons in favor of the maintenance increase who want to speak? Attorneys at law first, if any present. Are there any persons against the maintenance increase who want to speak? Attorneys at law first, if any present. Are there any additional questions or comments from any person present? The board now begins decision-making process. Yes.
Don, your understanding of 36-9-27 as it relates to estimated annual costs period. In my experience sitting here, that we really haven't ever done that on a drain, other than
We're just
There are-
generally using
there are
it.
recognized continuous maintenances on them.
Correct.
Nothing has ever been itemized, so how does that?
Well, you have an immediate project anticipated. And I think that, do you have any estimate as to the cost of that?
I do not, as far as, again, it was just generally gonna be used, maintenance money, used as.
As needed, but do you have a specific project in mind, correct or not?
Well, first of all, this specific project first is to get out of debt first,
Okay,
before we keep on, Like I said, the open ditch was clean, but then we also too need to go on to some adjoining properties to,
but there's nothing immediately planned in that regard.
once we get out of debt, but I mean, yeah.
Well, that may take a while.
It may, and we may be able to go ahead, once we've raised the rate, we can continue to work at that.
Well, I think there's evidence in the record of the debt.
Mhm.
And you know what the estimated revenue is and the application on the debt, I think isn't adequate for this particular project or where we are today. So
Yeah, because right now it sits at 10 plus years in debt if no other work is done.
correct.
Okay. And this will take it out of debt within 2 years if no other work. is done.
But we most
You'll
likely
most
will.
likely be doing,
Correct.
your use general drain funding for various projects until, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Should the proposed schedule of maintenance assessments be changed in any way? Should the surveyor's report be approved as finally presented? Does any member desire any further evidence in order to make a decision? Should the hearing be adjourned and reconvened to a date certain? We will now review the proposed findings of fact.
These are the proposed findings, which are not final until adopted by the board. Number one, public hearing is being recorded by digital recorder. 2, no petitions were filed. The board had requested that the surveyor's match drawings and documents for this drain be admitted into evidence. Maintenance increase initiated by surveyor's office. 3, the drain has been classified and previously placed on the priority list of the long-range plan of the board. 4, there are no damages to any landowner. 5, all of the benefit factors of section 112 of the Indiana County Drainage Board Code have been considered by the board. 6, all landowners sent notices of the proposed assessments have lands within the watershed. 7, notices by mail and by newspaper have been properly and timely made as required by the Indiana County Drainage Board Code for public hearings. 8, all lands included in the watershed are assessed. 9, no lands outside the watershed are assessed. 10, none of the benefits assessed against any landowner are excessively applied. 11, no further evidence is required for the board to make a decision. 12, all persons desiring to speak in person or by counsel have been permitted a reasonable opportunity to present their evidence orally or in writing. 13, all timely objections, if any, have been heard, discussed, replied to by the surveyor, and ruled on by the board. 14, no person has objected to the procedure of the board during the public hearing. 15, the board has jurisdiction of the drain under the Indiana County Drainage Board Code. 16, the drain is in need of periodic maintenance. 17, the drain can be made to A, perform the function for which it was designed and constructed, and to properly drain all affected land under current conditions by periodically cleaning, spraying, removing obstruction, making minor repairs to it. 18, the work proposed by the surveyor to be performed on this drain does not provide for any reconstruction as provided in the drainage code. 19, the board is unaware of any pollution in the drain. 10, there's no evidence to vacate the drain or that the drain has been abandoned by the board. 21, all relevant documentation in the files of the surveyor and the board regarding the drain are received into evidence by the board. 22, the schedule of assessments as originally filed is adopted by the board. 23, this watershed will no longer annually contribute funds to the 551 George Shrimplin Maintenance Unit and will be directly assessed against the 551 George Shrimplin Watershed. 24, the secretary of the board shall publish the notice in the board's final order as required by the Indiana County Drainage Board Code. 25, the final order form of the board is approved for this drain and is adopted to the extent it can be made consistent with these findings in final order of the board.
All right, I will now ask for a motion to approve these findings of fact. First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The chair asks for a motion to adopt the petition for maintenance.
Motion to approve the number 573 Paul Michael regulated.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I move for the board to adopt the surveyor's report and schedule of assessments to declare the schedule of maintenance assessments as approved and ordered. I now announce that the board has approved these findings, and the board is instructing the secretary of the board to publish notice of the findings in order. This hearing is now adjourned. All right, we will reconvene with our drainage board meeting.
We can get my
All right. Item number 568, Charles Conrad regulated drain complaint on excessive flooding caused by tree roots.
Got some flooding here. We have, heavy complaint. We got some flooding going on and, but we also, the two-part thing here, I believe, another adjoining owner, Miss Karen Bardsley, I believe, and she's objecting to being in the right of way.
Yeah, where it's going right now.
And this is her, this is her here.
That's my yard.
This is Karen's yard, okay.
That's Karen's yard. There's a riser right here, manhole right here. So you can tell there's no water movement at all.
And that water over there, that's the affected area, Greg?
Yes.
Is that correct?
What size of the tile talking here?
I think it was 8-inch.
I believe you're correct, Greg.
Yeah, it's 8-inch.
Yeah, go ahead and get on that.
So we've had some, heavy rains this spring. Is this the first time that's really flooded and stayed like that, or has it been like that?
It stayed like that. Yeah, I mean, it's always went down. Even earlier this spring, Town of Hudson called us and I went back and looked and it took a little time, but it did go back down. But it is not budging at all right now. I went out there I think Wednesday last week and Friday last week, and it's not went down at all. Spoke with the landowner today, and it still hasn't even.
So is the recreational track area, is that underwater?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I have
underwater.
pictures of that.
You said there's 3/4 of the track is underwater. There's no movement going through that manhole.
Yeah.
So if you identified that it's getting to the manhole, you don't know which side of the roadway the issues are.
I think it's where the manhole is.
Yeah.
The
Well,
manhole itself.
I
water's
think
not.
right there by the road is where it was the last time.
The water is not moving in the manhole at all, as you can see in the video.
Yes, I get that part, but have you identified, is it before or after the manhole?
Well, it would be moving it'd be moving if it was after the manhole.
Yeah, it's after the manhole that we have an obstruction.
manhole will be empty if nothing.
Right. The manhole would be, you'd see some kind of movement.
Well, that's what I didn't know if that drain actually totally emptied. Some of them stay long ran.
Yeah, it does. It goes.
Don't necessarily totally empty.
That manhole is actually worthless. The reason they put that in there the last time we had this problem, somebody just wanted that in there. I have a neighbor that has a sub pump, and ever since I've lived there 25 years, his water comes and lays in front of my house. So someone in town decided that if they put this manhole clear down at the other end of my yard, would help this water over here by my driveway, which it has done nothing. It's just a worthless thing. And the last time they dug my whole yard up and found out that it was right there by the road. And that's what I was wondering, if they would just, if instead of digging my whole yard up, if they would just try there at the end, since this is fairly new tile. Either right there at the road or down by Pranger's right at the back of my lot, which they do a lot of stone and crap back there. So I think it's plugged either by the road or at the end, but they can get at both of those without going through my yard. I had an awful time getting my yard fixed the last time.
So it's gotta be fairly new then.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah, farmers fixed it the last time.
Oh, we did, it wasn't surveyor.
No, you guys didn't do it. I wish you would have. Saved me a lot of money. And I've just finally got my yard back looking good again. I've had lawn service helping me with the grass and stuff, which they wouldn't do very much to help me. They ruined a lot of trees. And so you can see why I'm kind of not wanting to go through all of that again.
So I went to this manhole and water barely moving. You can see water moving. See the outlet and the inlet. You can see water moving. Also went to this manhole, which there's another tile coming from this way. And there's water moving down here too. The only manhole, water's not moving, is this one.
And it's plugged on the other side of the road.
So it's plugged somewhere in here. We need to investigate.
So do we send the camera, or we ever camera any of that stuff?
We don't have a camera.
I think we have a couple of contractors that
Yeah.
can get one from
It's just-
somebody else and
It's
run it.
and stuff.
I have the statute in front of me too. It's just important to realize too that at any time we can remove the trees and shrubs and the woody vegetation. It says right here, I can provide you a copy, may not be planted in the right of way without written
I
consent.
understand that. It was the way they did it. I had an Oriental cherry tree for when my dad passed, and it was beside, it wasn't even where the tile was. And they just took the dirt in the bucket and they didn't even ask me, do you want this moved, or are you gonna move it, or, and then in the back, they asked me if they cared if they busted a limb to get back into the tile back there, and I said no, and they just took their bucket and just ruined that tree and just left everything hanging. So then I had to get somebody to come in and fix that.
Again, I mean, I know.
I understand you can't plant any trees.
Yeah, and speaking with Greg, I know there were some, you were possibly maybe questioning the legality of it, but the county does have the right of way within 75
Yes.
foot of either side.
Yes.
And I already talked to Pringer too, those shrubs may need to be removed back there too. So.
That's my security.
Right.
It's that they've got a lot of crap going on back there, and that's the only thing that keeps me from that, because I get a lot of junk in my yard and stuff from.
Yeah, and we'll try to accommodate that too, maybe run a solid pipe instead of a perforated pipe, but obviously, your landowner to the east there is losing not only his livelihood, but I assume revenue too from having that tract flooded, so we gotta get in and get that fixed.
Perforated?
I would assume it is, most of the time it is perforated, so the water is.
When was that replaced?
You know,
Talked to the guys at Schmidt Farms, they said approximately 8 to 9 years ago.
but if it was perforated, they could have roots in it again.
Oh, I mean, that's what I'm asking, if we get a camera in there, just before you go in and.
Well, again, depending on the pipe and hopefully
If we
we
would have
can.
did it, we would have removed those trees back then when we did it, but some private people did it and she didn't want trees removed, so they didn't remove them. They poured copper sulfate to try to kill the roots.
But those are maples.
They didn't ask me if I wanted any trees removed. They just ruined them. I mean, they didn't say, do you care if we cut these trees down or anything? I wouldn't, if they're in the way and they're not supposed to be there and they're causing trouble, I don't have any problem with having them removed. But when they have them removed, do you give me any money for another tree, or am I just out a tree and
You're not allowed to plant any more trees in that right of way.
I wouldn't there, but I'm saying someplace
No,
else.
there isn't any.
You did tell me when I was there the other day, you would have no trees removed. That's what you told me.
No, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. I said I didn't, I wanted the big pine tree that's there by the house. I didn't want that removed, but if they have to be removed, just tell me, because
Well, I think if we do some investigation and we find that they have to be removed, then we're gonna have to remove them.
what I'm objecting to is the way they went about it.
Okay.
Of just ruining stuff. And then leaving it for me to fix.
Well, you did tell me that you'd have to consult with your attorney. You would talk to your attorney.
Yes. Well.
Interest there.
I understand. No, I just want to be clear. I don't want to have to go through this again. If trees need to be removed, I'm fine with that. Just let me know and fix it so it's decent, afterwards.
Yeah, we
I
generally,
don't have no problem with
we
that.
generally try to go in there and, especially if it's in the yard, we try to do a better job than just.
You take it back to your reason.
That's why I'm
Yeah, we'll bring
objecting.
a rototiller in there, other than just a ditch in the field where we just kind of bulldoze it down. I mean, we try to spend a little bit extra time to,
I mean, I waited a year to get them to.
is this the manhole here, Greg?
That's a manhole right there.
You talking about Schmidt Farms when they did it?
So we can go in there over, we're just gonna have to get in there somehow, and we can try that on the far
Yeah,
end.
if you just try it first.
Somewhere it's obstructed.
We need to investigate what's obstructed.
I see
And I told you that, I told you that we could start there, but if we figure out.
Then we go out there on your side.
Right,
Go in there.
understand.
That's why you're here today.
Yes, yeah.
got manholes
Well, I
too.
just wanted to make it clear, my feelings, what I went through the last time.
If it's not written on the inside,
don't have any?
we do not. Should we put that in their budget?
Camera?
That's the big, the excavator should have in their budget. So you don't get paid for the big coil thing.
So yeah,
Camera.
that's a tile finder.
Rotors.
That's what you're asking. It's a big tile finder and a coil, but a lot of times it does not work in the old clay tile because the clay tile are in sections. So you can push it through, you just won't be able to retrieve it because it'll get caught. So that only works in, smooth boring side. It won't work if,
What are you talking about?
sure. So before I got in office, Mike Ruff had purchased a big, it's on a reel. How far does it go
It's
out?
really a utility finder for the
It's-
most part, anything, but it does have the,
I think Alex used it once and we never have, so it's a little
it
bit.
won't make any turns.
Yeah. Difficult to use, so.
Very stiff.
But it'd be great as a utility.
Yeah, so it's an excavator.
So it's a shovel like they put it in back 100 years ago, so.
All right, so you're gonna do some investigation?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some investigation, and again, we're gonna try, Karen, to, go on the backside first over in Pringer in their stone lot, but I.
And out by the road, right where that's where it was plugged the last.
Sure, so it's not, again, it's not going on through, but, if we have to go in your yard, we very well may have to remove, I mean, this right here, there's screamed to me
Hey.
That's a big pine tree,
You
yeah.
know, so,
This one.
and this too, yeah, and that, so.
Yeah, those look like sugar maples, is that what they are?
Yeah, they're maples, yeah.
Yeah, they'll,
They love water.
they like water.
How deep's that tile?
About up there, I think they said it was about 8 foot.
It's pretty deep, so unfortunately, if we go through, yeah.
So what do you do, have a tree service that just comes in and cuts that, or you have somebody on the board that cuts it, or?
If we go in there with, if it's 8 foot deep, we'll need a large excavator to go in there, and the tree will have to be removed.
Tree removal,
How trees.
How you're gonna remove the tree? That's what she's asking.
tree service, or just push it over.
Well, if it's close to the house, we'll have to have a professional tree service go in there, just.
Yeah, it's pretty close, because the tile goes between the tree and the house.
We don't wanna, we definitely don't wanna pay for damage to a roof.
No, I don't want it either.
Okay, so you're investigate and then.
Yeah, and
Assess.
we really need to get in there, soon, there's a few
Brainer
things.
did say that they would, put up some kind of fence across here. And obviously not with the stakes right on the tile, but if we did have to remove
I get
trees,
a lot of junk from
they
in my
would,
yard.
they would be willing to, they want to be neighborly and look at some kind of screener fence there.
Privacy fence of some sort, perfect.
Okay.
Is there funding available in the Charles County regulated drain?
Do we have none?
what? Oh,
I don't believe there's a bunch in there now. That's a joint drain also with the Chuck County.
So we have to have them involved in order to do anything?
Not for regular maintenance. If we're gonna have a hearing, then yes, like to raise rates or a reconstruction.
We'll do some investigation, but digging down to a whole camera, things of that sort.
I can tell you approximately how much money is in there. There we go. Look at this.
Has June claims in there yet? Well, he did just post our spring collections, because we just did get those, so.
So we're still probably gonna have around $700 coming in fall, something like that. That was 2024 fall. Maybe a little more.
So we have a couple thousand in there or 10,000 in there?
10,000.
Okay, so we got some money in there to do something.
So Chad, do you own that property?
I don't own it, but I lease it.
Lease it? I was confused when I'm looking at this and it says United Brotherhood.
Yeah, the church owns it. We lease it from them.
Money's worth right now.
What's that?
And you're not getting your money's worth right now.
No. That's my concern.
They make RC boats, man.
Yeah, right. I lost 3 weeks earlier this year because of that. And then it dried out. We got a few weeks in and then we're back to this and we're on 3 weeks right now. And I'm losing $2,000 to $8,000 every Saturday because of that water in there.
And it's drier, the water should be gone.
Can I speak about something?
Can you see your name, please?
Harvey Leckleitner. I used to live right across the street from this, in the manor. And City of Ashley would come periodically to pump the storm sewer out down the road because it wasn't. That's tied into that or got any feed to that, it's gonna make a mess.
Well, nobody ever cleans it there in the field where they have the, I don't know what you call that. That gets plugged all the time and nobody ever takes care of
Oh,
that.
catch basin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a yellow thing that comes
Oh,
out.
standpipes.
I actually, somebody had shoved a rock in there, the last time, the town of Hudson called and somebody shoved a rock exact size as the riser right down in there and I removed it.
You did remove it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I've been out there and done that. I've been out there.
Teenage kids having fun.
Well, all right, investigate that and then I guess move forward with what you need to move forward with on it.
And then do we have Karen's and Chad's direct contact?
I do.
We do, okay, perfect.
All right, number 6, consent for variance. Final approval received, like first, it's for the signs and stuff.
Yeah, this was for the DNR for that Marl Place wetland restoration. They finally got it signed and got it all sent back, and remember we had to change some of the verbiage and stuff. And yes, sign.
All right, anything else, Jonah? Nope.
Good, thank you.
The gym segment.
Jimmy. Yeah. All right, we are adjourned. There we are in this house.
You guys can-
What's that?
We're doing a drainage.